Hi folks, we're Tacitus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio, no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about governments, and this is all across the Western world, but talking about Australia for the moment. Governments telling us that white people, no, you're not getting replaced. What's wrong with a bit of diversity? You've got a problem with that, you fucking Nazi. So I say, hey, so what, 25, 30% of the people, they've still got 70, 75% white, hey, there's no big deal here. Now, if you look at the great, whites being replaced, the algorithms on all the search engines will come up with only Hitler, the Ku Klux Klan, neo-fascist skinhead Nazis would say otherwise, but all the good people, no, of course it's not happening. Oh, you silly, silly Nazis. So, but do you believe the evidence of your lying eyes? So I had to go to an early morning meeting in downtown Sydney yesterday. So I had to run a few errands, and they were along the train line. So I ended up taking public transport to get in there. So now, apart from being one of a very small number of white people in the train carriage, when I got to the downtown, this is the busiest train station in Australia. So, and there was not a lot of white people there, let me tell you. And it was primarily Asians. In fact, it's almost exclusively Asians, and there was a lot of people. Now I'm 6'2", so there was 187 centimeters or something. So there were a lot of people there who were sort of between 4'10" and 5'2". I'm surrounded by midget Asians, and they're all talking in another language. None of them are talking in English. And given the way they move and stand and the clothing and I've done a vast amount of international business travel, so I can get to, I can identify behaviours as being whether people are local or not, whether they've been here a long time. And a lot of people have arrived pretty recently. Now, given the age group, they weren't all students. So I sort of, as I was walking, I had to walk across from one train platform to another, and it's a bit of a walk. So I could have a look at the people, and I purposefully took out younger ones who might have been students, given it's only 2 or 3 sort of train stops away from a major university, so it's possible they could have been students. So I toned that down, but took out the younger people there. But still, there was the ratio of white people to non-white was around four non-whites to every 1 white. It's about 80% was the non-white ratio. So I then moved from that train station, which I thought would have an over-representation of non-white people, then going to another train station, which is more like in the heart of the CBD rather than that other one. And the ratio didn't really change. It was about the same. And that sort of surprised me. Later on, I walked through a district where there's quite a lot of tourists. And again, the ratio stayed roughly consistent. So there was more in the tourist area, as high proportion of tourists were, say, from other white countries like Germany or Sweden and that sort of thing. So then I went into the meeting or a series of meetings downtown, and the ratio of white people jumped up quite considerably. So the non-whites fell in these meetings, but as soon as the technical detail and the real workers were there, then it was mostly white people, nearly all white people. But then it moved into more airy-fairy type of things where exactitude, performance, detail weren't important. Then suddenly the ratio of non-whites jumped up quite considerably. So anyway, the thing that I wanted to sort of highlight here was that given 80 to 85% of the people in Sydney are certainly by as I saw it, are non-white, and it's even higher again if you go into areas where there's students and so on. So now the government tells us that around 70% of the population are white, but if you look at all the major cities of now, Sydney and Melbourne attract the largest number of the mass migrants that are coming in. So what I'm concerned about here is the lies that we're getting told. Why not just be factual? Now, every the Western world has no sovereign government anymore. They are all controlled by the globalists. Their policies are not the policies of government. Their policies are the policies of the globalist cabal. And the policies in Britain and America and Australia and Germany and France are exactly the same, because they're the globalist policies. They're not policies that the government has. There may be some minor things, such as this place may create two levels of lesbian painting classes rather than one in the other. So there's some minor adjusting factors there, but it's all the globalist policies. That's why Kamala Harris in the US has no policies. The policies are the globalist policies. She is the globalist candidate. Trump is the American candidate. So it's the lies that sort of stick in my craw. Now we're told that mass migration. No, there's not really. You're not being replaced, white people. So now, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, you would see hardly any Asian faces or non-white faces in Sydney in the down. You'd see some in the tourist areas. There's a few students, but there's hardly any. Now you hardly see any white people. That's the extent of the change. It's all happened in 25 years. Now, if you look at the numbers that the government claims are being brought in as migrants and so on, then this is not an accurate story. If that's true, then I'd be looking at, or anyone going through the downtown will be looking somewhere at around 1 in 3 or 1 in every 3.5. To 2 in every 7 people would be non-white, but it's the complete reverse of that. Whites were in an obvious and decided minority wherever I went in the downtown, wherever I went in the downtown area. So why does the government lie to us? Why doesn't the government just say, hey, you know what, this is not bullshit, this replacement theory, you actually are being replaced, and this is the globalist program. So the only way they can continue with the globalist program is by telling lies. I mean, if the program is that bad that you can only get by telling lie after lie after lie, and the bigger lie, the biggest lies ever, why is it? Well, I mean, wow, what are you trying to hide? Is it that fucking bad that you can only bullshit your way through it by telling lies? So we're told that white people aren't being replaced. They clearly are. There is no question of this. Why does the mass migration include, so many non-white people? So let's have a look at these lies that they're telling. That's the first lie. White people are being replaced. This claim that white people are still far and away the majority in Australia and the West generally. This is not true. In Australia, I would speculate that white people are probably, it's already approaching 50% would be my take on. This is overall across the entire country, not just downtown Sydney. And given you would expect or anticipate an overrepresentation of non-white people in Sydney and Melbourne, so the bigger cities, but so white people are being replaced. The migration numbers are much higher than the government's letting on, and they must be bringing people in under various sort of schemes of family reunion or allowing people to make spurious claims. Yeah, all these people are my cousin. You mean 100 people are your cousin? Yeah. Well, hey, all right, then we'll just let them all in under. There must be massive scams and fraud going on in the migration space, because the intention again, under globalist orders, is to bring as many non-white people in as possible. So you've got fully qualified German engineers that can't come to Australia because they somehow, a third world peasant who's never worked or lived a subsistence peasant rural lifestyle, they can get into Australia. So what my concerns are, I'll just sort of, firstly, white people are being replaced, but we're being lied to about it. Again, the next thing is that, well, okay, we're bringing a lot of people in, but they're all highly skilled, very, very skilled people. Skilled. They've all got 100 PhDs each. That's not true. We're being lied to again. These people are illiterate peasants. They're illiterate in their own language. They're illiterate peasants who have never had a job. They live a rural subsistence peasant lifestyle. They have completely alien habits, customs, attitudes, views, have never lived in a city, let alone been to school or anything. At best, they may have had 1 or 2 years of some bullshit bush, one classroom bush school. Why would you want to? They add value to nothing. They can only do peasant level jobs, and even then. So why are you lying to us and saying that these people are highly qualified and skilled? They're not even close. The next thing is the government says, well, we only bring in people who can speak good English. That's simply not true. There is another lie. The people being brought in can't speak a word of English. And even 20 years on, you go to these people, they still don't speak a word of English because they stick in their ghettos and their communities, and you go to their own shops and their own, hang around with their own people and so on. So there's no requirement for them to learn English. There's no stipulation. The other thing is these people aren't allowed to claim any sort of government benefit, like unemployment benefit or free medical care, and none of those sort of things. There's a 5 or 10 year embargo on them doing. That's not true either. There are a million ways they can work around this on the basis of they have human rights and human dignity. That every human being has dignity, and so they're entitled to free everything. And under various, we're being lied to. There are no embargoes against these people accessing endless amounts of benefits. The other thing is if these people commit a crime that means they're in prison for 12 months or greater, then they can be deported, regardless whether they've become citizens in China or not. That is hardly ever enforced, very, very rarely enforced rigorously against white people, but not enforced rigorously against brown or black people. And there are armies of human rights lawyers, typically all government funded as well. So we're being lied to constantly at multiple levels. Now, the crime rates that these immigrants, the classic Somali immigrants, all these sorts of things are obscured, and we're being lied to at all levels about this. The other thing is, another one is that brown people and black people, these migrants, don't take local people's jobs. Again, a lie, absolute, a brazen, grotesque untruth. So one lie after another, endless lying in order to support it. I hadn't realised, because I hadn't been into the city early in the morning to go to a meeting or for any reason, and so this was sort of a little bit of a shock to the extent of it. I mean, if it had been 50-50 or like white people in the majority but not hugely so, I would have shrugged my shoulders. But when I saw how few white people there are compared to, again, all these Indians and Asians, Chinese and so on, it was like, whoa. So my lying eyes are telling me this, but the government's telling me something different. Why are they lying? I want to know. Why are the media not climbing all over this? Well, we know that the media is globalist controlled, and anyone that does mention it is, again, when you do a search on these sort of things online, it just comes up with nasty skinheads. They're the only people who would say this. But so the media is lying, running cover and lying on behalf of the globalist controlled governments. Now, I mean, it sort of goes on and it becomes a little bit irritating. I needed to pick up some medication for a relative that I elderly relative that I look after, picking up her medications. So I went to a pharmacy to get everyone that works in. There was not a single white person working in the pharmacy. Now it's what happened? The white pharmacists just suddenly magically disappeared. They all go to heaven or go into the ether or something. Where do they all go? Now I did a bit of work on looking on this. This chain of pharmacies was bought by an Indian investment company, and so they run every pharmacy as kind of a franchise. And so as soon as they switched to the franchise model, it used to be all white people working at these places. When they switched to the franchise model, it was almost like an overnight thing. Suddenly all the white people disappeared, and every pharmacist was Indian or the few Chinese and some of the flunkies that ran around like Filipinos and so on. So, but there's not a white person in sight, and not one of those pharmacies I've ever been into since the Indian investment firm took over has had I haven't been able to find a single white employee. Well, and again, it was only white people working there before. They've all gone, all of them. I mean, where did they go? Why is this not a front page story? Indian investment company buys up and fires all white people. So white people clearly are being replaced, and but not only replaced in places like that, elsewhere. Some of the meetings that I went to, the meetings that companies where there was all white people or jobs that were all white, but those people have all gone, and yet decidedly inferior quality people from the third world are being installed in these jobs. So again, a white person would have had those. So they're not only creating new jobs that aren't needed, like especially with Indians, creating new jobs that aren't needed and as gifting them to people who haven't earned them or deserved them, but they're also just gifting as in affirmative action, race, gender quota type stuff. They're just gifting these jobs to brown and black people, and which means that white person's not getting the job they otherwise would have got. Now, the economy isn't creating new jobs, particularly not the better paying jobs. Far from it. The opposite's the case. The ratio of well-paying jobs to the total number of jobs is declining sharply. So the economy is not generating new jobs. So jobs are clearly being, if the economy was generating more jobs than the level of migration, you could say, okay, well, sure, all right, then there are so many new jobs being created that the migrants are filling up, but that's not the case. Far from it. So we're being lied to again. And the cover-ups, the lies, the cheating, the bogus statistics that were being fed, it's all lies. And now, okay, if globalization is such a wonderful thing, if mass migration is such a wonderful thing, if diversity is such a wonderful thing, tell me how. Explain it to me. Explain it to me how it's such a good thing. Because at the moment, all you do is tell me lies. You've been with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.